6-foot table talk as we find out who walks the walk. It's the bane of our existence to practice social distance. 6-foot table talk.
Hello and welcome to this week's 6-foot table talk. I have the most special guest that you have ever seen in your life. My lovely redheaded white woman, my wife, Crystal Eastman. I just introduced you and I didn't mean to do that. Introduce yourself. Tell us about yourself.
Hey, I'm Crystal. I'm Nigel's wife, and I work for a large bank. They have a credit card. They have an auto side. They do a lot in the financial industry. And I have worked for them for 5 years. Some of it at their Tulsa site and some of it here in Plano, Texas. And it's just a really great company to work for. I'm not going to say the name because I did not contact HR to get permission to use their name or anything in this video. But I will give you a hint. It might be in your wallet. And that's all I'm going to say about that.
So I wasn't even going to do that, and you did it. Good for you.
Yeah. So I started out with them in customer service, went over to, this was back in Tulsa several years ago, went over to their digital side where we would email back and forth with customers, but it was a very canned response. We couldn't customize it. And that didn't last very long. That whole division just didn't get good feedback. And then I moved on to our CAT team, which is a customer advocacy team. If a customer is upset and they have an escalated issue, we would diffuse the situation and get that issue resolved. In Plano, I started out in a very backside of the repo division. It was beyond repo, where we were actively skipping them, looking for the car, trying to get it worked out. And from there, I went to our dealer recovery group. So I worked directly with dealerships, recovering funds on back-end products. So when you purchase a car, if you think back to when you're in the finance office, they say, okay, here's the price of the car, and here's an extended warranty, here's an oil change package, here's a gap product, which covers if there's a gap between your payoff, if there's a total loss, and what your insurance would pay if there's that gap. That product helps cover the gap. And there's all sorts of products you can buy from a dealer, but we mainly work with the extended warranty and the gap, getting those canceled, getting refunds to customers to help them. If their car has been repoed, it helps bring down the balance. If their car's total loss, it helps bring down the balance to where insurance pays the rest. So it's a very back-end process. Been in that department for 2 years. Learned that job forwards and backwards. And I guess kind of the reason I'm here today is to talk about socially distanced leadership. So there was a leadership transition within the team. We have a new manager as of this summer, a new supervisor, and directly below them, kind of in the chain of command, would be me. And that's a utility player. So I'm a formal leader within the team, and I plug in holes as needed. I do a lot of reporting, so I can pull raw data, filter it down to a nice, pretty spreadsheet, and send out to dealerships. We send a lot of invoices, and I personally work with some of our larger car dealerships. I'm not going to say their name either, but there's one dealership that's all across the country, and I work directly with them, and some other large dealerships I work directly with their corporate office.
Mm-hmm. So I'm going to break all that down just a little bit. Let me take a step back and say, there's this stereotype that whenever you purchase a new car, that the guy, goes in there and he hardballs the finance manager and all that, and guys get the best deal. Let me run that tape back just a little bit and say she has phenomenal understanding of all those processes, all those contracts that you're signing on the dotted line,
Yes.
that you're just kind of glossing over. You don't really read the thing. Well, she reads the thing.
I do.
and she knows the thing. So where there are guys out there who are like, "Nah, man, I'll get the best deal." You're wrong. My wife gets the best deal.
Very true.
For those of you all, I'm telling you, who are looking at purchasing a new car, you might consider bringing Crystal to that finance table because she's like, "Nope, you don't need that. You don't need that. Just, nope, give me bare bones price," and she'll probably get you the best price. Sorry, guys. Sorry about you. I mean, she is aggressive. And she looks so sweet, doesn't she? But she's really aggressive.
It's the quiet ones you got to worry about.
It's the quiet ones you got to worry about. So I'm sorry, you kind of jumped the gun on some of my questions.
My bad.
In terms of what do you do? You're fine. Okay. What do you do? And what are some examples of what you do? And you talk about some of those larger dealerships that you work with. And as we were discussing this ahead of time, you had said, and I'm going to bring up this term, that you kind of deal with them with white glove service.
Yes.
So if you could, and you all didn't hear her use that phraseology because I told her not to, but I'm using it, could you be a little bit more specific or maybe give some examples of what that white glove service might look like for larger dealers?
Okay. So I'm going to break it down a little bit more with our department. We have thousands of dealerships all across the country that we deal with. And we've broken them down into regions. So we may have, like a Southwest region, Northeast, a Chicago region, because that's a big one. But each person on our team, we have a couple people that are assigned to each region. So they may have specific states that they deal with. And we've handpicked a few of our larger dealerships. So not just like the mom and pop, that they have one location. The dealers that have multiple locations. And there's even one here in Plano, DFW area that I work with that has locations kind of all over the Metroplex. So we hand selected some of these larger dealerships that send us the majority of our business, knowing that we need to maintain those relationships on a very high level of professionalism. They know that they're always going to get a consistent product from me. We have a relationship to where they can call or email me and they know my name. They're like, "Crystal, I have a question on XYZ." And I can say, "Oh yeah, sure. This is what's going on. This is what I need from you," or whatever the case may be. Like, we have a personal relationship with those dealerships so that they know what they're getting. They don't have to worry about one person telling them one thing and another person telling them another. Just the white glove, going above and beyond service.
So watching this online, you just saw it in edit, is because my wife made a mistake. She accidentally used the group that she works with. So that's what that was. But that's an excellent description of what you do. But as a socially distanced leader, how do you lead? Like, what roles do you do where you work that you would consider yourself a leader?
So the first thing is quality in your work. And I mentioned earlier that I learned my job forwards and backwards. I know everything there is to know about our specific department. And that makes me a SME, or a subject matter expert. So even though there's more tenured people on the team, I've taken the time to learn the nuances, not just the main point of our job, but like all the little bunny trails and one-off situations that may come up. So people know that they can come to me because I've been recognized to have that information. Or if I don't have that information, if another one-off situation arises, then I will take the initiative and work with other departments, work with other people within the company to say, what is happening here? Why has this happened? How can we solve for it? And that's another thing I didn't mention earlier with leadership, whether it's socially distanced or leadership in general. It's about not only recognizing a problem or an issue that needs to be resolved, but coming up with ideas to solve that problem. And I tell Lexi this all the time when she says, "I'm hungry," or "I need a tissue," or "I need a drink." Like, okay, what should you do about that? What's the solution to your problem? And I think you could apply that almost anywhere. Okay, you've recognized a kink in the workflow. Great. What can we do to improve it?
So that makes you an expert. There are people under you, and in particular, you have trained several individuals. How do you go about training new people when you can't be over their shoulder? You can't look at the same computer screen that they're looking at, or at least, not in person. What
Right.
does that look like?
So thank God for Zoom.
Yeah. Oh, Zoom.
I have trained 4 new hires to our team during 2020, during this year of the pandemic. These are people I've never met. They worked in a completely different building from me, other teams from me, so I have probably never even seen them before in person. But just using Zoom, and I think one thing that works to my advantage is that I'm an introvert naturally, so I don't have the added pressure of people looking at me when I am telling them something. I can just share my screen and say, okay, what we're going to do is we're going to pull up the account on this screen. Everyone has 2 screens, multiple windows on each screen, and just kind of walk them through. We're going to pull up our account over here. We're going to pull up this tool over here. We're going to, check this information down here. We're going to produce the letter this way. Just, it's a lot easier to walk them through on my screen what they should be doing and clicking.
So we had this conversation before, and you did this again, that you're talking about this screen specifically, not specifically. What are you looking at? Like you're telling them, click here, go to this tab or this option, this program, whatever. Can you paint the picture of what you're looking at that you're explaining to them, that you're leading them in?
Yeah. So physically at home, I have a standard computer monitor and then a larger computer monitor. And on my standard computer monitor, I have our loan servicing program. So we can pull up a customer's loan and we have multiple different tabs on it. And we can look at all that. It's a lot of information. And that's also where we produce the invoices that we send to our dealers. On our other screen, we keep all of our other tools. Email is a big one. Chat, so we can chat within the company. A check imaging. So if a dealer says, "Hey, I sent you a check," and we say it's not on the account, we can get the details and look it up in a specific system and find that check.
So to kind of put it in the most basic terms, not to say that this is what you do, but it's kind of like a call center viewing screen, a bunch of little window programs, and you're floating information in between those window programs, searching for information in between those programs as well.
Yes.
So one of the things that you mentioned is you mentioned Zoom, and you mentioned a company chat that you utilize as well.
Yes.
2 questions. On a scale of 1 to 10, how critical is Zoom to what you do?
Zoom is definitely a 9 or 10.
Stop. Say that again.
A 9 or 10.
So I know, and I'm addressing the camera at this point, that we are kind of zoomed out as a church all over the country, maybe even all over the world. We are zoomed out. But why do you use Zoom? Why is it so important?
So instead of our manager just communicating via email or chat, we all jump into Zoom once a day and have a team meeting, a quick pull-up, and we can say, these are the updates that we need to know, something that's more critical than an email that might get filed away. Like, these are important, you need to know this, and give us a chance to connect with each other. Like, we get to go over, how are you doing today? What's your temperature gauge? Are you red, where you don't want people to bug you? You just had a really, horrible weekend or day or whatever. Are you yellow? Just kind of, I'm here. Or are you green? Yeah, I'm having a great day. I'm open for communication. I'm open to help. We kind of gauge everyone's temperature.
So my next leading question would be, if you have that company chat, why do you need Zoom at all? Why not handle everything through chat or everything through Zoom? Why not strictly use Zoom or strictly use chat?
Yeah, so there's advantages to both. With Zoom, the biggest advantage is going to be the connections that we have. We can kind of be like, oh, hey, haven't heard your voice in a couple days. If someone was out, like, oh, it's good to hear your voice, or it's good to hear your laugh or whatever. We get that more personal connection. And chat is good for, hey, I have a customer on the phone, I need an answer right now, sort of thing. But also, if anyone uses a team chat where you have 26 people in a chat, that information can be lost so quickly. And that's sort of a disadvantage.
So there's kind of a hierarchy of communication. And I would imagine that you value communication in your supervisory role.
Yes.
And I kind of jumped the gun on the question. So if there are 3 or 4 things, or 5 or 6 or 10 or 200 things, if there are 3 or 4 things that you find to be kind of vitally important as a socially distanced leader / supervisor, what would those 3 or 4 things be?
So definitely empathy and patience was the first thing that came to mind, having this conversation. Just understanding that everything is different this year. Someone that you may have had a relationship with at the office, you talk to them in your normal tone, whether it's joking or serious or whatnot, and they could take it the wrong way because they're stressed out, because they have a kindergartner at home or a 6th grader at home, or they have a spouse or, boyfriend, girlfriend, whoever, parent working in the next room, and they may be divided a million different ways and not able to have that same level of concentration with you. So just understanding that they may be going through an extremely stressful situation, just being patient. If I message someone and they don't answer me until 5-10 minutes later, and they're like, oh, I'm so sorry, I was helping my kid with their Zoom or whatever. Okay, I get it, no problem. And just communication. Not only being clear in what you're saying or typing, but communicating in a preferred communication style.
Yeah. Oh, that's good.
So for me, I'm an introvert, and I want you to get right to the point. I don't want you to embellish. I don't want any frills or flowers or fruit details. Just give me the bullet points. Whereas other people, if you give them the bullet points and they're wanting the whole enchilada, then they're going to feel maybe you're being rude or trying to cut them off, or that you don't value their time. You just want to get done with this, specific conversation and move on to the next thing.
So I guess you can kind of split Zoom in your group chat into Zoom is the empathetic, relational touch, and the chat is, hey, here are the highlights. This is what you need to know. And that's why I addressed the camera earlier, is because it's the same thing. It's relationships. And we may be sick of Zoom, but obviously we're seeing that Zoom kind of helps us form relationships and maintain relationships. And that's not just the church world. Our mission statement is to connect God and grace to self and community. This is a community too. Our Sunday school groups, our discipleship groups, they're communities as well. So as a church, we're always trying to pour into our greater community, the Plano and surround, but it works internally as well. And I think that's what you're communicating, empathy. There's one thing that I had heard another pastor, Craig Rochelle is his name. You can look him up. I don't care. Craig Rochelle had said about relationships that whenever you're communicating with your spouse, don't just think empathetic thoughts, but verbalize empathetic thoughts. Don't just think compliments to your spouse, but actually say those compliments out loud. You saying patience and empathy, they're important, but also communicating your patience and empathy, that's also important as well. Would you agree?
Definitely. Just if somebody verbalizes something, then know that that was important. If they said, Crystal, I'm having a really tough day. My 5-year-old or my 15-year-old is really getting on my nerves, or, their Zoom keeps crashing or our internet keeps crashing, whatever. I understand. I've been there.
Preach.
I'm so sorry that you have to deal with this frustration. I said, you're handling it great. You're doing a great job.
It's empathy.
And encouragement. Just telling them, you're doing great. It's going to be okay. We're all struggling in one way or another.
It's like a work love language.
Exactly.
So on the flip side of it, you're talking about being the supervisor. What about the supervised, the subordinate? Like you find yourself in a role that there are only authority figures above you, no person that you're an authority over beneath you. What 3 or 4 things do you find important to an individual, the employee, who is only supervised?
So they definitely want their supervisors, their leaders, whomever, to be available and to make time. Leading through socially distanced times is different. You know, you don't want your leader to be completely absent. If I am my manager or email and they don't answer, it's like, okay, I'm on my own. So it's important that your leader, if you say, hey, I need to talk to you, do you have 20 minutes? That they say, yes, not right now, but how about this afternoon or whatever? Make time to be available for your people. And when you jump on those coaching calls, don't just get right to the point. Okay, you know, I got this feedback on you and we need to correct this or we need to improve that. What my manager does, he's really good at this. We'll jump on our coaching call and he'll be like, okay, like take a breath before we jump into business. How are things? How you feeling? You know, is everything okay? Is there, you know, stuff going on? Really good about asking those questions, because if you get that info, if you say, is there stuff going on? And you're like, yeah, you know, my, you know, dad just died, or my kid is giving me trouble, or whatever the case may be, or yeah, I just won the lottery. You know, it can go either way type of thing. I'm really happy about this, or I'm really bummed about this. Then they know how to approach you, and they know to, you know, not joke around with you if it's not appropriate.
Yeah.
Or if they know they need to go easy on you, empathize, sympathize.
So it kind of, the 3 or 4 things that you mentioned before kind of apply to somebody who is supervised as well. The employee, communicate your empathy needs. Like, hey, this is what's going on in my life. And communication is just another thing.
Yep.
I think that is an overarching theme of our entire conversation. We have to communicate well, often, and better.
Yes.
Any final thoughts?
Just empathy and communication, I think, was my overall thing in this. We're all going through something that we've never had to deal with before. Just try to take it easy on your coworkers, connect with them. You know, let them know that you still care, that like, I'll see you again, maybe in a year, who knows, but just keep those relationships there.
Excellent. You're beautiful.
Thank you.
And we're out. Thank you.
6 Foot Table Talk, as we find out who walks the walk. It's the bane of our existence to practice social distance. 6 Foot Table Talk.